Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines and, most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak to transportation professionals on this show, as well as my twice-a-week long-form podcast, because I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy hump day, everybody going on out there. I got a very special guest for you guys. I'm going to bring him up here shortly. Just a couple of quick reminders, you guys. We got episodes dropping all the time out there on iTunes and Spotify, so check that up. And also the Freight Coach newsletter every Friday drops out there, you guys. So make sure to go to thefreightcoach.com to register for that. Erica Hamilton, good morning to you. Corey Buchan, happy hump day all over on YouTube. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I got my man Cody with A&Z back on today. Cody, what's up, bro?
Not much, buddy. How about you?
I'm doing well. That's a very good looking flag you have on the wall.
All right. Yeah. It looks very familiar, right?
Oddly familiar. It was, dude, who like, is your boy still making those?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And he'll design, you know, if you're into certain sports teams. Obviously I'm a diehard Yankees fan. I really wouldn't put a sports team on Old Glory, but like he does make them for people too. They're all customizable. So his name's Wayne Kinder, actually, if you guys want to hit him up. I do believe he's on LinkedIn.
You should hit him up. I got an idea of a flag I want him to make. I got to reach out to him and see if he'll do that, because it's right up my alley, man. So dude, what's been going on in the produce world?
Man, it's been rough the last couple of weeks, honestly. I mean, it's a good sign, right? It looks like some volumes, pre-COVID volumes, are starting to return, which is a great sign. We've had a really odd couple of years. I know that the whole freight market has, but produce specifically, especially with weather. But definitely, if it's starting to feel tight in a couple of areas that we didn't really feel too much tightness last year, especially Florida and Nogales. Nogales has been popping. Melons have been flying off the shelf out there. Grapes just started down there. Load to truck ratios are horrendous. So if you're an owner op, I would get your butt down to Nogales or Phoenix so that you can haul one of those very well-paying loads right now.
Dude, I'm going to be honest. I love when produce season hits in Arizona, because like all the grocery stores around here just have the best of the best produce. Absolutely. Man. It's so good. Yeah. I went and got the best tasting grapes I've had in a long time here this past week.
Yeah. I think most of the grapes right now are still coming down from down south. The big grape season in California, I think, kicks off in July, like mid-July or first part of August.
Okay.
Bakersfield.
So how are you, like, when you're talking about it being as tight as it is out there and for owner ops and trucks to get down there, man, how are you negotiating with your customers at this time?
I mean, just being honest with them, letting them know where rates are at and letting them know where capacity's at. The best thing you can do is the biggest cure-all is data, right? Like you can't lie about the data. So, I mean, it's telling a story of, if you guys need a truck, like, this is unfortunately the rate you're going to pay this week. This is the rate you're going to pay next week. And, be happy to find you capacity for it. But nobody's taking anything for 50% off right now. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think that it's this is really, and I know you and I have talked about this, man, because it's like with developing business right now, and it's challenging, right? And anybody who says any differently is lying to you. And because it's like, we're out here prospecting every single day. And, the sentiment is it's like, hey, you sound good, but like, we literally don't even have freight for our current providers, like we're slow and everything else that's going on out there. So it's like, I think that people need to, I always focus on business development, but B, like, what are you doing with your current customers to protect your business with them, because I think that a fatal error that a lot of people make, and everybody's guilty of it, is they think that the freight's always going to be there from their customers just
Correct.
because they've been moving freight for them.
Oh yeah. And if anybody thinks that everybody else is a prospect in your customer every single day, you're high in the sky. Yeah. I was on that side for 12 years. And I can tell you, even back then, we were getting, 100 to 200 phone calls a day from brokers and carriers. So, but to protect it, we try and stay in touch. I mean, I have weekly cadences with most of my customers to make sure that we're talking about if there's any shift in the market, what next week's going to look like. Obviously, we just got done with the Blitz week, right? So that's a little bit more communication than a normal week. That's like a daily communication. Hey, this is what's hot. This is, these are the areas that we're seeing good rates still. These are the areas that, is really, really tight. I mean, last week, it definitely seemed like California and Arizona was much tighter than the rest of the country. Florida was pretty tight too. Mm-hmm. But it's just staying in touch with them. I mean, 5 minutes a day, it's not like you're calling them to bullshit for an hour and talk about their kids and everything else. Like, that's obviously building rapport, but like this time of year, it's just keeping them in the loop of what's going on. If you can get them a good deal because capacity loosens up in certain areas, you need to be preaching that as much as you need to be preaching when rates go up, right?
Yeah.
So just keeping them in the loop on everything. That's kind of my approach is weekly touch base with everybody, make sure that everybody knows where the market's at. You'd be surprised at how many customers don't have access to data that brokers have. You'd be surprised how many don't use, DAT and Sonar and everything else. I was quite surprised at some of the Fortune 500 companies that don't have access to that, right?
Yeah.
So you being a provider for those guys and a partner, talk to them about that, feed them that data. The better you can make them at their job, the more they're going to appreciate you and give you opportunities. So,
dude, I think that a lot of individuals out there don't like, they're so consumed on how do I get your business today. I think it's it's a very short-term mindset from a business development standpoint. And I get it. You have a budget to operate off of. I'm bootstrapping and trying to, stretch $1 into $5 and everything else. But like, I also understand that nobody is going to just give me business for the sake of giving me business, because they don't need me right now. And, it takes a long time. It takes prospecting, people for a lot longer than you probably want. And that's not to say that you can't find somebody who you call and they're like, yeah, I'll talk to you right now because they got burnt,
right.
That happens. And, and you can find that magic in there, but that's not the reality. Right. And I see so many people get caught up in that. And then they get caught up in the customers who only are using you to quote, and then they never award you any freight at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I think that you need to be focused on what other value can you add besides, hey, we got trucks for you, because I think those days are like dead. I honestly think they are way dead and gone.
Yeah, I agree. And you bring up a good point there. Like I personally, I do not like filling out RFPs if I don't have a relationship with anybody. I know that that's usually step one most of the time after you get onboarded. But those first couple RFPs, you're not going to get any business. They're using you as a rating tool to really rate their incumbents, which is fine. I mean, that is what it is. But I much prefer spending the first like 3 to 6 months building rapport with those guys, helping them out on spot, helping them out with, if they do get burned on a Friday, we always call it, fuck it Fridays, right? Where they're going to pull their hair out because they got 20 loads dropped on them at 5:00 in the afternoon. And if you help them out there, that's a different story. But if you don't have that rapport, those first couple RFPs, if you're a newer broker, do not get excited. Don't go home and crack a 12-pack and think that you just, won the lottery and got a great customer, because they are most likely just utilizing you as a rating tool.
Yeah.
Build that rapport. If you don't have a relationship with these guys before you start pricing, it's literally just going to come down to pricing, and nobody wins at that point in time. Right.
Yeah. Dude, I had a guy tell me that, and I still went through and filled out his RFP. He said, hey man, he's like, I like what you're saying. He's like, our RFP is done for the year. He's like, if you want to fill it out, he's like, you can. I can't guarantee anything, but I'll have your rates on file in the event. And I'm like, fuck it, I'll fill it out. Like, I need to do something here. And it's just one of those situations where I also look at a lot of these scenarios as practice, because like the market changes so much and it's so different out there. And, because I talk about, dude, you've been in this industry for a long time, just like I have. And I was talking to some other buddies of mine who have equally been in this industry just as long. And they've all said the same thing. They're like, hey, it's a different game out there for developing business. You know, it takes like it's a brand new sales cycle when you get onboarded with somebody. You got to fight just to get one load out of them. And that doesn't mean that you're going to get your second one right away if you pick up and deliver on time. You got to work a lot harder at getting business because there's so many people out there who are reaching out to your customers and your prospects at all times. And it's always been that way in brokerage. Like there's always been just a constant barrage of outreach. And one thing that I'm really starting to realize is if you can cut through the surface layer of that, and just really prove that you're different, and that's it in your ability to communicate, right? Because I think, yes, I utilize email outreach, but and I talked about this a lot, I'm really focusing on cold calls and site visits, just trying to show up at these people's places because nobody is doing that. And I know that nobody's doing that, at least at scale, because customers are surprisingly really receptive to that.
Yeah. Oh, big time. It's crazy that people think that cold calling's dead. And, I read so much about that and I'm like, no, it's not that it's dead. It's just you've automated enough on the email side that people have just gotten lazy, in my opinion. It's so much easier to just create a sequence that's going to auto email everybody 3 times a week, right? Than to actually pick up the phone and, people getting those butterflies in their stomach. Are they going to pick up? Are they not going to pick up? And what do I say when they do? You just got to get over that shit. That's just it. Or you got to get out of sales, one of the two, but, just make those cold calls. And I love showing up, showing up unannounced the last couple of years has bit me in the butt a couple times, through COVID and whatnot. But like now I think that people are getting a lot more receptive to it. That's the way it used to be. I mean, when I was a shipper, I used to have people show up on my doorstep all the time wanting to go to lunch. And it's part of the game. Like if you can't do that, if you can't make time to do that, you're just going to hide behind your keyboard and send out emails all day long. Good luck in this industry.
No, I agree with that, man. I just think like it's so much more effective. Like I would rather spend money on a tank of gas and a stack of business cards and go out there and just see people, because like from my perspective, I also want to see like if they show me their warehouse, like how fucking organized are they?
Oh, yeah.
Because I've been into some that are like military operations. You could literally eat your lunch off the floor. And I've been into others where it's like, dude, they have misplaced racking. They got broken pallets on the ground and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know if I would want to pick up anything here.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a good point too. And it's just seeing their operations. It helps a lot to determine, because you brought up a little bit of magic of people actually picking up the phone and you landing a customer on your first phone call. I always thought that was dangerous, man. Usually if I get a customer who immediately is ready to give me a freight, first thing I'm going to do is triple check their credit, right? Because they're probably customers that maybe, the good customers, it takes anywhere from 3 months to, I onboarded with a large enterprise customer in October and I just barely moved our first load in the end of April, and it's just part of the game, but you can't lose sight of it. And, as a salesperson in this industry, like you got to understand that relationship is everything. We always talk about that and everybody always says that, but I don't think everybody understands what true relationships are. True relationships are not an email once a week saying, hey, just checking in, just checking up. It's actually like providing, to my point earlier, providing data. A lot of these guys, just ask the question, hey, what data source do you guys use? Most of them, it's going to be internal. We just use our internal data. Cool. Well, I'm going to help you by providing some external data to see where you line up against, everybody else in the industry. I've used that a lot. And I know that there's been several Fortune 500 companies that I work with that I am their sole source of, DAT data and sonar data and everything else. Because their company doesn't see value in it from up above, right? So they're not going to purchase that. But we purchase it as brokers because it helps us day to day. And if I can share that and educate our customers as well as educate my team, it helps me just become a better broker and a better partner.
Speaking of a better broker, Erica Hamilton says she just is taking a break from doing that.
That's okay, Erica. Thanks for the support.
Yeah, just right now, I just wanted to let you know that I gotta stand up for my girl there. Dude, I think like you're bringing up a lot of great points. So from your perspective, how does somebody prospect, or how does somebody, like, what can they do to, instead of sending that, hey, just checking in email, because I think developing business and developing a relationship, because you're right, man, it's nauseating how much people are like, oh, relationships. Well, how do you fucking create a relationship, right? Because it's not just sending them quotes or anything like that. Like, how do you build a relationship with the shipper?
It's just the banter back and forth. And, sometimes I've literally had a customer that, they made a change in leadership, right? And you know how that goes when you have a big customer. Change in leadership can be good or bad, right? This person brought in a lot of their own carriers and brokers, right? And so the rest of us that were incumbents kind of had a smaller piece of the pie. It took me a year and a half of literally just picking away, like, hey, how's things going? I'm going to be in town, next month, whatever it is. First 3 months, I wouldn't even get a reply from him. Nothing.
Yeah.
Not even I'll pass on it, Cody. It was just straight up. Only communication I had was, here's our RFP. These are the dates. Turn in your rates, right? Took me a year and a half. Now I have great rapport with the guy. We're actually pretty good friends now, but it took so long. And I guess, to answer your question without being super long-winded is don't give up. Realize that everybody has a busy ass life, right? And they probably have at least 20, 30, maybe even more people in your shoes asking the same questions every single week. But you can't give up. Never take no for an answer, and just realize that it's kind of like, not that I would remember this because it's been so long, but it's like the dating world, right? Like some things work and some things don't, but you got to try everything. It is what it is. Like for me, it's trying to find some sort of commonality, whether it's sports or music. Sports is my go-to because I'm such a big sports nut, right? But outside of that, it's providing value like we've already talked about. And I don't want to sound like a broken record because I say that shit all the time, but it really is like our job is to help our customers reach their end goal, right? That's all our job is. Most customers have an idea of where something's going to start and what it needs to look like at the end of it. Our job is everything in between.
Yeah.
Right. So they know that this RFP is going to be X amount of loads and they have this budget that they've got to try and hit, which is the end goal. Our job is to make sure that we try and conform to that and help those guys achieve that goal. And if you help them achieve their goals, they're going to get promoted. They're going to get great bonuses. They're going to get whatever they need to get at work. They're going to be fulfilled and they're going to be successful. And that is our job as a broker, is to help our customers be more successful. So whatever you got to do that, oh, Sonny, come on. Come on, buddy.
That's funny.
I thought we were friends.
Oh, that's fucking great. So dude, how do you really work inside of your guys' niche like this? Because obviously produce is seasonal, and now you guys don't just haul produce, right? Like you guys have other customers and stuff like that. But how do you build up inside of the reefer market? Or are you guys out there offering reefer and drive-in and stuff like that? Like, how do you really work inside of that niche?
We do haul quite a bit of dry freight as well. Produce is our bread and butter, though. A lot of it, I'm going to be honest, is boots on the ground. I mean, I'm in Salinas all the time. I live here in Phoenix, so it's easy for me to go to Yuma during Yuma season, go up to Washington every year, go to Texas, go to Florida. It's boots on the ground. It's making sure that we're not just communicating all of the time through email and through phones, but I've got to see my customers. I've got to go out. I like going out to the fields. I like going out and seeing what's happening out there. Eric and I actually just did a great tour with a customer of ours, Wonderful Citrus, got to go see their entire plant and all this great stuff and see the fields. It's amazing going out and understanding what those guys are going through every day and showing that you give a shit about what they're going through every day and that they're not just another load, right?
Yeah.
Talk to them. A lot of these guys are so proud of what they do, as they should be, as shippers, and what they're moving and what they're producing. They're feeding America, at least for us. You got to show some interest in it, because to me, it's fascinating too. Like, I nerd out on that shit, right? Like I love that shit, but just put yourself in their shoes and really, really understand your freight. So to prospect in our niche, if you're not willing to travel and do some boots on the ground and knock on some doors and show up to people's, doorsteps, you're probably not going to be super successful.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. I think that a lot of the success in any business, whether it's freight or not, is it is just, what are you willing to do that others aren't willing to do? I think it can be deduced down to something as simple as that. And, I think the more and more people push automation, which again, I'm a fan of it to a point. I've never hid my opinion on that, but there's certain key things inside of my business that I will never automate, because I feel like it waters down the level of service that I can provide out there. Because really, I was listening to I got to read this guy. I got to read his books now. Is Herb Kelleher, who's the founder of Southwest Airlines. And I was listening to this podcast the other day, and it's just called Founders is the name of the podcast. I would look it up. It's a guy who breaks down a bunch of autobiographies and biographies about famous people and, like successful individuals, and puts his, he breaks down the books on there. And he was talking about Herb Kelleher and what he went through to build Southwest Airlines. But then one line that really struck me is Herb said, he's like, we're a service company. We just happen to fly airplanes, and it's like, that's that service that I think is going to always be the biggest separator out there, because there's always going to be competition, right? There's always going to be, and then the bigger you get, the better the competition gets, right? And you just got to think, like, what are you going to be willing to do that others aren't willing to do? And it's like, instead of investing in automating everything, maybe you should invest in some fucking plane tickets and go out there and see some people, and just get a feel for what they're going through out there. What are their real pains in their business and their real concerns about their freight and everything else? They're not going to tell you that over a phone call, but if you're fucking walking their lot with them, they tell you a lot more than you think. And that's in a 30-45 minute meeting. You'll get more information out of them in that 45 minutes than you will over a year of emails.
100%. And yeah, I mean, you cannot overstate that, to be honest with you. When you actually go there and you see the operations, like I said, most people are proud of what they're doing. Most people take a lot of pride in what they do, right? So they are more than happy to tell you what's their volume every day. Like show you their entire dock, show you their yard. This is how many trailers we turn in an hour, their KPIs. When they share that information with you because, they want to, because you gave a shit, you actually showed up there and you proved to them that you care about their company, what they're doing. That information is priceless. I mean, you cannot get that from just moving freight and participating in RFPs. There's no way. Yeah. So yeah, it's huge.
No, I think like it's just, there's a lot of overlooked things out there, right? And I know that a lot of people want to remove the personal rejection away from it, because I think that's what really holds a lot of people back. It's easier to send a DM or send an email, because if they don't respond, it doesn't sting as much as hearing, I got to talk to 30 people like you a day. We're not interested. Hang up the phone. It's a lot less confrontational and everything else. So like, I get it, right? I don't like confrontation as much as the next person. All right. Like, and I'm not going to sit here ever and say that the rejection doesn't get to me, because it does get to me. I got a fucking family to feed. All right. And what really bugs me is I know I'm better than their current fucking providers. I know I am, but it's not, I can't let that stuff deter me. So it's like, what I really rely on in those moments is, again, it's just like, hey, I'm just calling to introduce myself. I'm not asking for anything, because I think a lot of people put a lot of weight on what they could make out of that relationship if that relationship happened. And I don't even want to talk about their freight right away. I just want them to know that I'm a real person. I just want to introduce myself. I mean, I think from another business development tactic that people could think about is, how many times have you met a complete stranger, and how many times has, at least when you're an adult, inevitably it comes up, hey, what do you do for work? Correct. That's all you're doing is you're just going out there and introducing yourself. That's what I tell myself when I make calls or when I make site visits. Hey, I'm just a founder of a business. And I just want everybody to know what I do. If you need me, if you need a resource, I just want you to think of me. It's as simple as that. I'm not going in there and asking them for anything other than a couple of minutes of their time. And I'm going to take that effort to show up to them.
Oh yeah. 100%. I was a big fan in the 2000s of bodybuilding, right? Obviously I don't look like it, but there was a quote that I used to have hanging in my office. It was from Dorian Yates, who he won Mr. Olympia like 6 times, right? Remember Dorian?
Yep.
He there's this interview where he said, look, I was not the most genetically gifted person. I know that. I could look around me and see people who had much better genetics than me. But every time I looked at my competition, I knew that nobody outworked me, because I could not give an extra ounce towards my workout. And that's kind of the point that you're trying to make, right? Is like, just outwork everybody. Doesn't matter if you're the smartest person, doesn't matter if you're the most talented person in the room. You can outwork a lot of talent. What's scary is when you get somebody who's talented that works hard, right? I go back to John Jones. I'm a big UFC fan, right? Oh, yeah. And John Jones actually worked very, very hard, there would be no debate. He would be the GOAT. Everybody would know that he's the GOAT, right? Because he's the most talented person on the roster. Problem is, he doesn't take life serious. He doesn't take it serious, right? So you get somebody like GSP or something who worked his ass off, and I would take that all day, every day. If you're not grinding, if you're in sales and you're logging off at 5 p.m. and you're not checking your phone at 5 p.m. and you're not doing anything after 5 p.m., you should probably get the fuck out of sales, honestly.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. And I just look at it as it's just one of those things of, I watch, you can say what you want about Tom Brady, but I fucking love Tom Brady's mentality. I love the interviews that he's given here recently and kind of into his mindset and his inner workings. And, I look at it like this, and this is something that I told myself when I first moved out of Wisconsin 14 years ago. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm going to give it 2 years. All right. I'm going to give it 2 years. And if it doesn't work out, if I don't like it, I will come home. But when I turn 40 years old or whatever, which ironically is coming up here soon, I will never look back and regret trying and having it not work out. But I would have always regretted not trying. Like the amount of people that I've, the older I've gotten, that I've talked to about like what I'm doing, like, hey, I started my own company or I moved away from my hometown. And the amount of people who are older than me who are like, fuck, I wish I would have done that. Like, I wish I would have tried, and they're older in life. So it's like, that's all you're doing at the end of the day. You'll never you won't remember the amount of times that you get rejected in business or anything like that, but you will remember it if you don't even fucking attempt it. That's what's going to eat you up. And that's what's eating you up right now on why you feel fucking unfulfilled, is because you're not even trying.
Yep. 100%. Absolutely.
Because people are onboarding new providers right now. All right. It's not easy. It takes a long time, but people are onboarding quality. And if you are quality, if you are actually who you say you are, when you deliver that, you will find success out there. You guys, like, even in the best of times, there's still a 1% conversion rate. All right. No matter what industry it is, when it comes down to developing business and sales, you talk to the best sales reps out there, they will tell you 1% is the conversion rate on actual closed deals. So to keep that in mind and just don't get frustrated with it.
No, and what's that old saying? You're always one cold call away from changing your life. You never know.
Straight up, you're one phone call, you're one introduction, you're one conversation away from changing your life. Literally every single day. And that's how you have to approach that stuff. And another thing, not all business is good business, you guys. At the end of the day, not all business is good business. This is why you vet your customers, you vet your providers, you do all of that, because everything sounds great when you don't have any freight coming in. And then if you don't verify their information, if you don't do anything like that and you don't check their credit, they won't pay you. All right. So there's just a little life lesson for you to maybe help with the imposter syndrome on when you're trying to cold call somebody. You don't even know if they can pay their fucking bill yet. And you're going to give them any ounce of power over you, a complete stranger who wouldn't even notice you if you were walking down the street.
Yep. 100%. My first year I got burned, not double checking a credit. And they went under 6 weeks after I started moving my first load with them. And we ended up eating, we ended up eating like 40 grand or something like that.
$40,000.
Yep.
Oh, dude. And I know a lot of other people, same situation, man.
Yep.
40 grand, 80 grand, stuff like that. Cause the freight comes on quick and they didn't check their credit at all. And, and that's another thing too, is you watch customers, here's another little free lesson for you guys. Watch how much credit your customers use when you get onboarded with them right away. Cause if it's gangbuster for 3 weeks and then you don't hear anything from them for a month, they're just using you as a credit line.
Yep.
And that's
in trouble.
Pay attention to those little things like that. But, well, dude, I appreciate it as always, Cody. I like having you come on and bringing the real side of the produce market because you're in it every single day and you're making it happen out there. But how does anybody reach out to you to find out more?
LinkedIn's the best way to reach out to me.
LinkedIn, you guys hit him up. All right. And hit up every Red Sox fan out there as well for Cody, because that's what he needs. But hey, you guys, we'll be back tomorrow. I got a guest coming on tomorrow, a guest coming on Friday as well. As always, if you guys saw value in what you heard today, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.